Welcome to Access the Future, a groundbreaking collaborative between the Access Control Executive Brief and Acre Security. I'm Lee Odess, and I'll be your guide as we navigate the rapidly evolving landscape of security technology. In this series, running every single month, we'll dive deep into a subject and a trend reshaping our industry. From shifting customer expectations to the revolution of AI, from talent development to the transformation of security from product to platform. This isn't just another industry conversation. Access the Future is about creating a new shared vision for the security industry. We'll challenge assumptions, spark meaningful debates, and provide actionable insights that you can implement today to prepare you for tomorrow. The future of the industry is not some distant horizon. It's unfolding right now, and the decisions we make today shape what the future looks like tomorrow. Whether you're a security professional, a technology partner, or a forward-thinking business leader, this series offers you a front row seat to the conversations that matter. I invite you to join us each month, not just as a listener, but an active participant. So comment, reach out directly, because defining the future of security is a collaborative effort. So let's access the future together. The journey begins now. Hey everybody, Lee Odess here with the Access Control Executive Brief, and excited to have the first episode of Access the Future, which is a collaboration between the Access Control Executive Brief and Acre Security. I'm your host, Lee Odess, and in this series, we're going to explore the evolving landscape of security technology and look to the future of access. It'll dive into the specific trends shaping the future of access control and then the broader security industry. Today, I'm honored. I have somebody that I've gotten to get to know over the years, Kumar, who's the head of Intrusion and ComNet at Acre Security. Kumar is widely regarded as one of our industry's most innovative thinkers, bringing a wealth of cross-disciplinary knowledge and a refreshing curiosity to the security industry. I've gotten to know him, like I said. He definitely brings this high level of curiosity. It's what I love most about every time I get an opportunity to sit down and talk to you, whether it's over a good taco in Austin or it's been a meal all over the world at this part. Yeah. So Kumar, thank you for joining. Why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, and then share with us why this conversation is important now.
No, thanks, Lee, appreciate that and for the intro. Yes, Kumar Sokka. I am the president of Intrusion and ComNet at Acre Security, which I'm really excited. I joined this last September, and I'm learning parts of the industry that I haven't previously, and it's a great aspect for me because it's very internationally based as well. And so traveling quite a bit to Europe and to understand the landscape out there has been really nice in terms of what else is out there in terms of security, right? And I think when I joined the industry 3 years ago, I came in as the president and general manager for LenLS2, and it was really nice joining that business because you get a wide range of learning the industry from an access control standpoint, but you give the reach of the go-to-market because it's a significant amount of partners they have across the regions. You get an understanding of the ecosystem and all the different partners that you have in terms of technology partners as well. And then you get the reach of the end users. So a wide aspect of really understanding the market itself from different angles, access control, intrusion, and network devices. But maybe where I came from and why I really find this industry exciting is because I'm from the industrial automation space. So I spent 16 years at a company called Rockwell Automation. And when you think about what they do, they have a controller, they have sensors, and you basically connect the data and information and you try to automate and drive efficiency in a production or manufacturing floor, right? And if you think about those concepts, it really relates easily to physical security, right? You have a controller, you have sensors, and you have some type of action. And that's very true for the intrusion platform, as well as access platform. And so it relates very easily from that perspective. And the last 6 years of my time at Rockwell, because I would say manufacturing is probably 7 years ahead in terms of leveraging the data and information and AI and how you're driving a closed loop type of autonomous thought process. I led the strategy at Rockwell for digital, the services, the software, and the implementation of it to the largest enterprise companies. And so taking those frameworks and concepts to the physical security industry was really relative for me. And why this is so important that we're having this discussion right now is because the security industry is actually going through this transformation right now, right? Connecting the devices, bringing information together, companies looking to figure out what problems they can solve beyond security. And so it's really exciting to have this conversation with you right now, Lee, but also exciting for me to be part of an organization that's driving innovation, and being, a true evangelist of the transformation that's happening right now in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We talk about the companies that are breaking from, let's say, yesterday's vision of what it looks like, leveraging that position that it's been in to really take advantage of what today and tomorrow looks like. And Acre, I've been pleasantly, surprised, if you would, in a good way, that they've invested ever since Triton's come in as well, to really show a transition of what the art of the possible can be, of what the future could be like. So it's nice to see, and it's not only in technology, which is usually what people like to do it in, but it's also people. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, just to add on to that, right? And I look at Acre, and one of the reasons why I joined is that you're absolutely right. There's companies in the portfolio that were started in the 70s. So you have this heritage and understanding of the market, and to your point, the people and the technology and the partners. And then you also fast forward to today, you have technology that was acquired, that was, brought up in the current years, where it's merging the cloud technology, and you have this bridge that you can bring together these two kind of positions. And so for Acre, we have this home field advantage, and then we have the opportunity to bring security forward in a lot of ways, because you have the technology that's also future proof,
yeah,
right? So it's really exciting to be part of this company in the industry right now as well.
yeah, no doubt. So let's jump into that. So the
Yeah.
title, and what I wanted to do is the title of this was purposely done with the idea that we would use each of these words that are in here, or grouping of words, and break down exactly what they mean when we talk about the future when it comes to access control. So, the title is The Security Landscape in 2025, What's Shifting and What Does Tomorrow Look Like? A Shared Vision. So how do you define security in 2025? And then has this definition evolved from traditional perspectives? And how do you see it evolving?
Yeah, I mean, so I think when I always think about security as a whole, I always think about the mission first, right? You think about what you're doing to solve problems in society, right? So the personas, the end customer, and I think it's pretty similar across a lot of the companies that we compete with, that we partner up with, right? You're trying to protect people, assets, places, right, of the today and the future. And I think that's always common in terms of the mission that we do right now. And if you fast kind of to think about 2025 today, that's still true in terms of our mission. But I think there is parts of that mission that's also evolving, right? It used to just be physical security. Now the technology has evolved, where you're interconnected with lots of different parts of the business, and you're integrating with different parts of the end user technologies as well, whether it's a CRM tool or an ERP or um, an HR system. So now you have to ensure that you also have the digital security side connected. So this convergence of IT and OT is definitely happening right now, right? So for sure, the build of the purpose, but then the purity of physical security is also evolving to the digital side, right? And I think what's happening in 25, what I've seen in the last couple of years that's evolved better today than it has in the past, is that people are now thinking about how to connect their devices, right? That's where the landscape is right now. I think where everyone's figuring out how to connect it, whether that's in the cloud or a hybrid perspective, right? And then what I think about tomorrow is that there is this evolution of trying to have this unified platform, right? If you think about the big three platforms, you have an intrusion, you have video, and access control. And everyone's saying, hey, let's unify these things, right? But truly, I think what's going to be unification is when you bring all this information and data together, and then you actually leverage it in an AI kind of mindset, so you can do something even beyond and be proactive with your security. So that's kind of where I think it's heading. It was just this purity of physical security. Now you're evolving to this digital space. Now you're connecting all the devices so you can get more information to do things with it, and the different ways that you can do that, or cloud and hybrid. And then the evolution of the unified platform will eventually be this AI platform in my mind, where you can be more proactive. Now we aren't there yet, but I think we're definitely talking about it. and it's evolving to eventually get there. Now, will that expand to the entire building beyond just security? Absolutely, I think so. But that's also, something that's going to be beyond the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, and it's funny because it reminds a lot of us of IoT. You talked about the OT side of
Yeah,
it and the connected parts, but this reminds. But back then, the IoT, in my opinion, really was focused around automation in a lot of ways, right? Like no one's in
yeah,
the building, so turn the lights off, type of thing to save energy. To where now it is still that, but it's, as you were saying, this sort of this automated but with proactiveness, as well as a richer experience that gets created, versus it just being one of those things that is, instead of people manually doing things, that's now automated, to where it's almost like the buildings are, and the places that we go do things are going to start to become alive in a lot of ways. And um, I personally call it the utility plus, and that's the plus part. The utility is the historical side of what we've done, which is the today and yesterday, that continues to move forward. And it's not in lieu of the plus, it's in a, the plus is in addition to what's there. And that's the future, in my opinion. And like what you're saying, the platform side of it, I think, is the term that we're using to define where
yeah.
all of that stuff happens. And then where it goes from there is really, I think, where a lot of differentiation happens.
Exactly. And I think now you think about the platform is absolutely important. But I think the other aspect of it too is what's happening around the device layer as well.
Yep.
And I think intrusion is a good example of this. Intrusion's always been around the sensors, right? Motion detectors, seismic, um, and you can go, the list goes on, because that's like core to how you solve problems, for the different buildings or the different assets you want to protect. Now, I think what's evolving because of the evolution of technology is because cameras, right? Cameras are kind of taking over slowly but surely a lot of those sensors, because you can do more with it, because you can be, based on the algorithms, and if you can do things on the edge and the speed of wireless or the speed of Ethernet, it's all going to evolve, right? And I think that's another aspect, is what's happening on the device layer, and you marry that with the platform. I think it's this evolution of how to leverage AI is going to get there faster in the next couple of years.
Yeah, no, I think that's where I love the old adage of our industry that everything goes slow. We almost use it as like it's a feature when it's actually now a bug. And I
Yeah,
think it's out of our hands in some respects, in some parts of our industry, where it's going to go. And the value creation, it'll be interesting, because you talk about, like, when a camera was just to be able to see things more,
yeah,
in the rears, typically, not even like live. I
live.
remember when live streaming was like, all of a sudden now it's like this revolutionary thing. I get it, it was at the time, but now it it's a data rich sensor, like you're saying, where it's pulling a bunch of information, and because of that is creating exponential value, that at that point you start to see them rolled out even more. And actually, I think that's why you're starting to see them, you know before it was like you had a reader on the wall for access control, and then you put a camera next to it. Now you're seeing them come together into one unit, because it's, like you said, an edge device that happens to do utility, plus it's pulling a bunch of information to go do whatever it is that you need to do based off the vertical or the posture that you have. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I
totally
mean,
shifting.
it's. I have this analogy I keep thinking about, right? Because coming from the manufacturing side, robots, like in the manufacturing industry, basically took away all these sensors because it's doing its own you know thought process, and it's doing an action, right? And the exponential use of robots has skyrocketed in manufacturing, and the price of robots have gone down, and so you're seeing that climb. Cameras is very similar for that, for the security industry. It's replacing a lot of things that you typically didn't think about, and now it's look at cameras, right? It's got, like, for every door or reader, you got 4 or 5 cameras. It used to be 2 or 3, and it's probably going to get to 6 or 7, right, very shortly as well, because you can do more when you see things. If you're leveraging the right technology at the edge, and then you pair it with the right platform, it can actually do reactions as well, right? So you're closing that loop essentially.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue into the next sort of group of words we had in there was about the shifts that are happening. So, and you mentioned some of them, but let's continue to dig into that. So, what are
Yeah.
some of the more significant shifts that you're seeing, and what trends are gaining momentum? And as trends go, I talk. It's funny. I talk to my kids about levers. Like you pull this lever down, this one goes up. So, as the trends and things change, there's also some established practices, or what I like to call old truths, that are being challenged. So, what are the trends? Which ones are gaining momentum, and what things that are the norms, if you would, of our industry, the truths that are being challenged?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the trends we all talked about is cloud, but what is really cloud, right? You're trying to get your data to a certain level and trying to connect your devices. So that trend for sure, I'm seeing that move faster now than when I joined the industry 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and in the intrusion space, it's really interesting, right? Because we launched this Intrusion Connect platform, and everybody kind of jumped on it pretty quickly because it gives you information right away. Like as soon as you connect, to your devices and you get real time information, people want to see that. They want to see how you're managing and predicting your devices, and you can monitor it, ensure that you have upkeep and efficiency, right? So I think this trend around cloud is definitely taking off, and that's really positive. I think at the same time, we're trying to figure out how to get there faster. So hybrid is also taking off from that perspective. So it's a step in the right direction. I just think it's a deployment method, and what that gives you is more opportunities to do more with your data, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Now, some of the other trends I didn't see move as fast, interesting enough, is like mobile, right? Like, we're talking a lot about mobile. It's going to come, but I just don't think we've got the right technology stack yet, both from the platform provider and the partners, and how that ecosystem works together. I don't think we fully solved it in the right way, because I think everyone's trying to land grab what their pieces and what they want to do. So I think that's going to take a little bit more time.
Can I
That's
jump
okay.
on you on that?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
mind?
Go ahead. Yeah,
All right.
for sure.
So I've been thinking about this, and I thought this is where I'd love your input. So we talk about it as mobile being the trend, but could we maybe, if we expand it a little bit, maybe the trend here is actually about the importance of user experience, and,
Yes.
and mobile happens to be one of them, because this is, I try to relate it to why I believe that the best thing that's happened to biometrics, for instance, is mobile. And it has more to do actually with the sort of adoption of the user experience story, more conversations around it, and the idea that of seamless and the rest of it, right? And we haven't seen the adoption of mobile, because in my opinion, because we haven't delivered enough value. We will, but that's because the expectation now, where our industry was made up of bad experiences as like a good thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
doors and locks and bollards, and like if we got in your way and you had a bad experience, we're like, yep, we nailed it, you're safe. Now it's like, no, I want to be safe, and I also want a good experience if I'm supposed to be there. So what are your thoughts on user experience, maybe, and it not being necessarily mobile?
Well, I think there's a couple. Let's unpack that a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Because what ended up happening is, I think a lot of the solution providers in the industry, whether it's a platform or the tech partners and the ecosystem or even the integrator, everyone has their own app, right?
Yep.
Everyone has their own website, and no one wants to have like 20 apps at the end of the day. Like, how many actual, if you're an employee of a building, how many people actually want an own app just to have a user experience? Not many people want that, right? They just want to use their path, which is, I use Teams and I want to use Teams for everything,
Yeah.
right? Like, you don't want to have so many other apps. I think that's part of the challenge, but everyone's trying to also win parts of that mobile experience, right? And so that's why people want their own app too. And when you're catering to the mobile experience, it's who you're catering to. Now you got to think about the personas. If you're the security operator, if you're the GSOC, or if you're the alarm monitoring, system, or if you're the integrator or distributor, maybe you do want a specified app from your partner, right? Because now you're looking at many things and you're managing many things, and now it's viewed as a platform
Yeah.
app versus just a one-off solution to leverage an app for. Does that make sense? And I think
Yeah.
we got to look at the persona and who's using it and try to solve for it. Now, when you look at that persona and it's the operator versus the employee, the numbers are very different, right? It's a lot less people. So is that opportunity as great? I think that's the challenge we try to face. And I think mobile was always kind of put to opening doors with your phone, but there's way more than that of what mobile can do, because you have your identity in there. And if you have your identity in there, could it even be and expand beyond that? So I think to the experience standpoint, to your point, is it's like we got to get down to the persona. And if we can nail that persona and that experience, then I will see mobile expand to a certain way. But at the end of the day, if it's the employee, right, it's hard because they're not going to download all these different apps because they want to use what they use for work and kind of move on from that. That's kind of where my head's at a little bit, is that we got to get down to the persona to solve the right problems for it.
I agree, because I look at it and I think, so mobile is fantastic in my opinion for if I'm a visitor and
Yeah.
I need something quick to get in, and I use to go. If I'm an employee and I'm a known, like, so that's like an unknown person who has permission to be there, seems to be a great thing. It's kind of like when you go to the theater, or you go to a game, or you have a ticket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I'm,
Yes.
if I don't have that, I'm not supposed to be there, right? So now
Yep.
I have this, I'll do it. I'm not opening up, frankly, my Ticketmaster app typically to get into the game at that point. I download it, or an airplane. Like, I
Yeah.
can't go to the airport if I don't have it, so I do it. So in my opinion, mobile seems to be nailing that. Now we have a desire for it to do everything, because in some ways it's a way people are differentiated. It's we haven't had it, so now we believe we have it, the rest. But if I'm an employee that is supposed to be there, I actually think maybe an application, my employee application, and it may even be like Workday or ADP, or
Hi,
again,
Bob. Yeah, exactly.
whatever, like whatever you manage your stuff out of, that again, it could have a pass in there that I use to get in, but like the way I manage it in utility. So what I think we're coming down to is like the different modalities, which is really difficult for our industry to do, because we just
Exactly.
want it to be one thing, and we're like, can we move on? Like, when the reality is like, this is now like a big ass tapestry of stuff that we're gonna
Yep.
have to like figure out. And it'd be, again, like on a website, I think a website was easy for us to build. I take that back. I actually think it's hard. I think it's as
It's hard.
hard as trying to do
It's
the
hard.
apps and the rest
I
of it,
do.
right?
I
Yeah.
agree.
Because
Yeah.
you're trying to serve everyone in one person, and you have a certain amount of budget, because you got to go build some other things. You're like, good enough. Everything is good enough, and we haven't gotten there yet. But in my opinion, the user experience wins. The modalities are what we need to be talking about.
Exactly.
And it
Exactly.
sucks, because it's going to be harder as we move forward to have to build for 5 different ways of how people want the choice to be done. Or, hear me out on this, it opens up an opportunity for somebody else to create that experience for them, and they use your systems, and systems like yours, as tools for them to create what they want for that particular building or arena or whatever it might be.
Exactly. And I think that's where, can you leverage, the common Salesforce, to your point, the common, the ADPs, the HR sets, the tool sets, right? Something common. Can you have an integration there where you kind of bring it all together, right? So that's absolutely how we're trying to establish and think about this too.
Yeah. So that leads to the next thing, is because we're talking a lot of these things as they're hypotheticals, that the reality
Yeah.
is like it's happening now in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
The future is here, and it's also still out there. So it leads me to the next part, which is, and this has been something I've been beating on lately that I'd love to get your thoughts on, is this need for a new shared vision. I feel like we have a very clear understanding of sort of what it's looked like and what safety looks like. Now there's areas where we're still trying to help, and it's a continuous living organism. So again, but we have a good base of what a shared vision looks like. Whereas now it feels like we need a new shared vision. So if I was to ask you, why is that important for us to have? And then if you'd want to give me a little bit of ideas, you talked a little bit about like the automation, the rest of it, but like your ideas around what that vision looks like. And then if we don't have this, what risks do we face without a shared vision? Because it scares me, frankly, that we don't have one.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree. Like, I think, when you think about the speed of technology right now, you think about what AI can solve. I mean, I think most of us use some level of AI in our day to day, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's DeepSeek, whether it's some platform, it's there's something around us that's being leveraged from this perspective, right? That you're doing on your day to day. And I think the shared vision for us is we got to tap into that, right? And we have to tap into that opportunity. And everyone is actually going on their own path in their own way and writing their own type of protocol so you can leverage what the AI can do for you. And I think if there is a ecosystem or an architecture or a protocol that we can all protect ourselves on the capabilities of what this can do and what we don't want it to do, I think that's what's so important for us. Because and every country and state are putting different rules together as well. You know what I mean? And I think it's a lot to talk through because there's like privacy laws and GDPR in Europe, but we as an industry have to come with the big platform providers. We have to come together and leverage what are the things that we want to solve with this tech because it's going to happen. It's inevitable and it's going to happen sooner than you think because the speed of AI is just, like when we first talked about ChatGPT a year and a half, 2 years ago, look how many platforms there are now, right?
Yeah.
And each one is beating each other every single day,
Yeah.
And so at the same time, I think we got to band together because it is a somewhat small industry and figure out as a shared vision, like what we really want to leverage and take advantage of with tech that's out there. So, it's not going to be disrupted or it's not going to be used in a way that we can't control at a certain time because you still have cyber risks, happening all day, every day.
Yeah, but I think that's some of the shared vision is that it's not just a physical risk; it's now a digital risk. So, like,
Digital risk,
if we just
100%.
agree on that as an industry, we stop talking about it as trends, and it's sort of like, no, this is what it is, and so we build with those things in mind. We don't have a conversation about them anymore.
But
Like, you do it.
you do it. And I think, Lee, this is like the shared vision of getting everyone to the cloud, right? Because like the quicker that we can do that, the better security we have, hands down, right? Like, I think, why do we, even for me personally, I like putting my information in, the cloud because one, it's there, it's protected. If something happens to your device, it's stolen or lost or someone breaks it, your data is encrypted and it's protected, right? And you know that. And so I think the similar concept of what we're trying to do in general is how do we move companies forward and how do we leverage the technology that's going to happen regardless. The shared vision is how do we move faster to get everyone into the cloud, right? And I think it's all about, I know we say it's deployment methods, but it's about connecting and it's about cybersecurity, and that's massive. I think in the last couple of weeks, we're seeing in the industry a lot of people talk about whether it's phishing, whether it's ransomware, right? It's so common now, right? And they're just coming after everybody, but we got to protect our companies, our partners, and the end users as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down, and I'll be selfish here on my end of it, but there's like a shared language needed. There's shared terminologies that are needed, a shared example of what good looks like and what bad looks like too, right? Like we talk about these things. We talked a bit about biometrics and about cameras and the rest of it. Like it gets back into like there's ethical ways of doing it and there's unethical ways of doing it. Like having a shared vision what that looks like. Whereas currently right now, it's literally like a big pot of spaghetti. And
It
it's
is.
like and the
It is.
shared vision is literally like whoever comes over whatever side of the pot you look at and whatever sort of like in your peripherals and in front of you, that's what the vision looks like. When I actually think one of the things and why I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this with me is that this allows us to start to create the the shared vision of what it sounds and it looks like in the examples, and it becomes the norms of what it would. And I actually think the legacy side starts to look like the abnormal end of it
Yeah.
because it doesn't include all of these things that we're talking about. And the quicker we get there, having these conversations, things like instead of having conversations about cloud where we're trying to convince people to do it, no, it's sort of like here's the benefits of it's sort of just built into that we go do that. Things like adopting what works in the enterprise software world, the IT world, bringing ours to the table, like you were saying. Like if we don't, like, this is my fear, I wrote about it this morning, is that like let's not kid ourselves. If we don't do it, someone's gonna fill that void, full
Yeah,
stop.
for sure. Full stop. And I think like it was interesting. I was reading this article or listening to this podcast of Jeff Bezos, right? And he was talking about like how there's always these trends in the market, whether it's happening every 10 years or every 5 years, where globally people are banding together, right? And I'll give you examples of that. So an example was the computer evolution, right? Like that definitely changed how we, came together as a society, right? And then the internet, right? How that everyone band together to leverage the internet. Then the smartphone, right? The smartphone came, and then everybody moved towards a smartphone, right? And then you kind of now moving technology to the cloud, so you can leverage information anywhere you want and be secure and safe. Now, what's interesting, what's happening is there's multiple things happening right now at the same time. You have AI, right? AI boom is like drastic.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people spending money on space exploration and what that means for us. Now, that's probably more out there, and it's rich people getting together and solving that, but like that could be something in the future for us, right? And then there's this autonomous kind of concept of whether it's autonomous manufacturing or autonomous driving, and you're seeing that evolution happening everywhere. And the shift in energy as well, right? There's energy transformation that's
Yeah.
happening from you know gas to electric. So there's like so many things happening right now for us. And then when you take that concept and you think about what do we have to band together as a shared vision for our industry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's things that we just got to get table stakes and everyone agree, hey, like, yeah, it's good that we ban around these things, right? The convergence of IT and OT. Does everyone understand like that's happening? Like we need to make sure that's important because cyber risk is substantial. And so we got to band together that that concept is real, right? We got to band together that cloud is an answer to that, right? It does actually solve problems and it's more cyber secure and it gives you an evolution of connecting your devices. And then we have to band together that, hey, AI is happening, right? It's going to happen no matter what, right? And so if you get your data and it's all connected, then you can do more with it,
Yeah.
And so these are all things that I think about how the shared vision is so important because they're happening all around us. And in this industry, we got to get together and make sure that we leverage that too.
So talk to me, like, no doubt, and I love to have conversations about impact. I do think they're inevitable, but the one that is always interesting for people is, so okay, so when, right? We talk about tomorrow. What time frame are you thinking about when you talk about tomorrow? Is it 2025? Is it 2030? Is it beyond? And then how do you, from, especially given your background, you've been always focused around innovation on that end. How do you balance those immediate needs of today, right, with also these long-term transformation? So when,
Yeah.
and then how do you balance?
I always put a concept of horizon one, horizon two, right? What are the things we got to do right now? And what are the things that we got to do now to prepare for the second horizon, right? Like that's how I always think about our business landscapes. And then within that, what can from a business standpoint, what are the above market growth levers? And then how do we also protect our core? So it's like a combination. And for a company like us at Acre, we have the opportunity, we have both technology sets, right? We have the heritage, we have the home field advantage, and then we have the technology that can bring a lot of companies forward as well. But there's still amazing things in the technology that we had or we have that's still out there today,
Sure.
right? And we solve real legitimate problems, that are specific to industries, whether it's the banking industry or the schools or the government, and that's very specific, right? And so when I think about like, okay, how do we get there right now? It's a big deal to take the technology that's coming and ensure that there's parity between the integrations and the features to solve these industry specific problems, for school safety or for universities, et cetera. So we can bridge this gap of migration to the new technology. So from my perspective, like step one is just make sure that we're protecting the core of what's happening out there and the industry needs, because that's super important, right? That's the core of what we do every day. And then the new technology that's coming out, make sure that it doesn't forget that, right? It's still helping the core of what those industries needs, but then it's evolving it to something different and something more that you can do more with it. And I'll give you an example, right? Like, school districts or, specific commercial buildings in Europe, they need very specific problems to be solved in a geography. And you need to make sure that's standard in the new technology coming out, right? And
Yep.
so whether it's the integrations of your sensors, whether it's the features that it has to be consistent. And so for me, like you have to have that parity, right? And then when you have that parity and you have that information now feeding into this new technology, whether it's cloud, you can do more things with it. You can do
Yep.
predictive analytics. You can do monitoring that you couldn't do before, right? So I think that's how I look at it. Like, yes, we're there now with a lot of tech. We're trying to build a parity so we can bridge this gap. And then once we bridge that gap, you can do so much more with it. And I
Yeah.
think from a maker standpoint, we're kind of doing all of that right now. That's why it's so exciting, and we're moving fast at that.
When I hear you explain it, the analogy that comes to mind that I'm reminded of is like during the Olympics or the relay races that they do, that point in period where they start running before they hand the baton over. I'm sure that's called as something that I'll go look up afterwards. But that's the period I feel like we're currently in right now, where we're doing what we've had before, attaching it to what and migrating over to hand off that baton, where the utility, it's not like they don't take the baton and like throw it into the crowd and then go pick up a brand new baton made out of titanium or whatever. They take the
Exactly.
same one they had before and they build off of that to go. So I feel like that's the analogy that we're at currently right now of what you're describing, which is no better time, in my opinion, to be in our industry than now because of that opportunity. I'd rather be able to help shape that than
Yeah,
just execute what was laid, the tracks that were laid yesterday.
100%. I'm
Yeah.
like totally agree with that. And I think, even from an Acre concept, we're going through some really neat branding exercises from our customer base. And the terminology that's kind of come out is that we're being this bridge, right? Like, because a lot of people talk about the future, but they may not have that answer right now, you know? But because we have both concepts of this and we do it, we're viewed as this bridge, right? And I think that's super important. And I think that's how we're looking at how do we solve this, what's happening now and what's happening in the future. Because you want to have a platform. It's like the Tesla, right? Like you have, like my Tesla when I first bought it, um, it's better now than it was 3 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
right? Legitimately because of software upgrades. And I'm
Yeah.
talking not just like better icons on my dashboard,
No,
right? I'm talking
performance.
performance and physical. Like I can actually open doors and do things on this car that I couldn't do before. And that's exactly what I'm talking about with the technology that we're providing too. Is like we can do things that today, but think about what we can do 2 years from now too with this tech.
Yeah, I jokingly always say that the historical way that our systems always work, the best day that they've ever had was the day they were installed, and then it
Yeah,
degraded over time. Whereas one of those shared visions of what I think of expectation that uh, end users and integrators and frankly people building these systems that we have is that the best day of that system is in the future, and if
exactly.
it's built properly, it does it, and that just literally changes the way you build and the expectation. Like you would just ask one question, be like, hey, does this system get better over the future? And they're like, no, because it doesn't. Like we're not on the internet and the rest of it, and you're gonna have to pay for upgrades and patches and stuff like that. It's like, no, that sounds like what we did yesterday. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
trust your instincts.
exactly.
Like just
Exactly.
trust them. All right, so if we're just want to we're connect the dots a little bit to what's happening moving forward. So everyone that's listening to this knows we've got another 6 episodes of this coming. We're going to have customer expectations. We talked a bit about that. We're actually going to get into talent landscape in episode 3, this concept of platforms versus products. Then we're going to talk about data and AI, and then go to market. Then we're going to close out. Kumar and I are going to come back on and have a conversation around that. So you'll see a lot of what the purpose of this was, to set the stage for what's to come on the next sort of 6 episodes. So if you don't mind, though, to wrap up today, because we're getting to that point, what are your final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience about the future of security? Like if I walked away with one thing, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you connect the dots with the other episodes we're thinking about too, I think about the talent aspect of things, right? Because there's a lot of change happening in the technology, but you got to also have the talent to help you get there. And that's really important with the shift. And what I'm really excited about is the industry now is bringing talent that hasn't been there before, who also can marry the technology as well. I talked about this bridge, right? You got to leverage what's core, the heritage, the home field advantage. That involves the technology and the people and the mission, right? But then we've acquired businesses that help us bring this forward, and then now you're bringing individuals that maybe haven't been in the industry forever, but they also see things differently. And so bridging that gap, right?
Yeah.
And then, what we're doing at Acre in some aspects is that we're kind of bringing in an entirely new leadership team that's outside the industry and people in the industry that, that the industry is bringing in because it's exciting to see what's happening here, right? So I think when you think about bridging this gap, and I think we talked a lot about this, about the vision of what we have to do today, and it's a shared vision, and we got to get there together. But there's this aspect of we got to make sure we bring the people along as well, and that is a combination of leveraging the talent we have in our industry, but also bringing talent that's outside the industry that can help us move and get there faster.
Yeah, dude.
Right. So I think that's a great way to think about connecting both the technology and the people and the speed of how we want to get there.
Well said. So thank you for that. So next up on our next episode, we'll dive deeper into customer demands and expectation shifts with Justin Wilmus. He's the EVP of Sales in America at Acre. And we invite our audience to join this conversation, comment, direct message, email us, whatever you might. And as Kumar noted throughout this entire thing, the future of security is already unfolding. Like this stuff is like happening now. And yeah, and it's time for us to engage with it proactively. So Kumar, thank you. I appreciate you and Acre and your team for seeing the need to go do this. I've always enjoyed these conversations with you. I know we'll continue to have these. We even do it when we don't record. So I look forward to another one, and thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening to Access the Future. I'm Lee Odess. We'll see you next month for episode 2. Thank you.